I'm ready to sound sexy anytime, you know?
All right. Welcome back to Pole Position. A new episode for you guys. I'm your host, Jacob Holmes, joined once again by Bryan, Loomis, and Stitt. We just finished up filming the Best Actor video, but that's probably last week for you. It's the same night for us. Welcome back, guys. Let's jump right into the Best Supporting Actor conversation, which is, for my money, the most exciting race still left on the table, especially when it comes to who's going to win. Um, but also pretty good race in terms of nominations. I think the top three are very strong. So I'm going to hit you guys with my front runner because I probably will not have the same front runner as the two of you. My front runner in the race is Paul Mescal for Hamlet as William Shakespeare.
Ooh.
Um, I think it's a very I think there's three very good nominees in the three horse race, and everyone's focused on one. And I believe that Hamnet is going to have a really strong push once it comes out in December. I think the fact that it's Paul Mescal's playing William Shakespeare, he has a very emotional role compared to one of the front runners that we know about that we've seen the movie. Um, I think Paul Mescal is a strong actor. He's been around the Academy a little bit lately. He's not as much as Timothy Chalamet, but I think he has the chance that they could award him the Oscar. And I'll talk a little bit more about some of the things that could help him win that when we talk about some of the other nominees. Um, but I'm predicting myself to be part of the Hamnet Hive. I haven't, like I said, I haven't seen the movie yet, but I'm a bit of a sucker for the more emotional movies, and it's got almost as good of a critical reaction when you look at it as One Battle After Another. It's got a 91 on Metacritic with like 20 reviews. One Battle After Another has really solidified its Metacritic score of like 95 with so many reviews in, and then of course audiences have really enjoyed One Battle. But I think audience Hamnet's winning audience awards left and right, and so I think those are the two movies really going at it for Best Picture, and therefore I think Paul Mescal actually has a decent shot at winning Best Supporting Actor. Bryan, who do you have as your front runner for Best Supporting Actor?
We might all be different here, which would be really fun. I've got Stellan Skarsgård as I wouldn't say he's the front runner, but I think at the end of the day, he's probably the most likely to win. The Academy or pundits always underrate international movies at the Academy awards, and then they end up doing better than sort of predicted. I think Sentimental Value is going to end up with like 10 nominations. I think like it's going to get 4 acting nominations, then in all of the like top line categories: picture, director, screenplay, casting. The new casting award, I think it'll get in there with 4 acting nominations. And so I think once those nominations come out, people are going to be like, oh wow, we've got to take this seriously, and there's going to be a re-examination of all of the categories it's in. And people really love this Stellan Skarsgård performance, like we were talking about the other week. In the Best Actor race with Wagner Morris. Stellan Skarsgård is in an international movie, but he's a known presence to American audiences, so he's not going to be like, who is this guy in this international movie that I have to watch? People know him and would be happy to recognize him. So I think it's got a really good chance that he takes home the award.
I do agree. Stellan Skarsgård is definitely one of my other in the big three that are challenging for this spot. Like you said, Stellan Skarsgård, even though it's an international film and he's international himself, he is known to American audiences. He's a veteran, he's older, he's been around the industry longer, it would be kind of fitting. He's not just himself; he's got a whole family in the industry, um, obviously tearing it up, and so it makes sense in many ways. It's a movie about making movies, which obviously appeals to the Academy. I was looking it up though, and I think this is kind of interesting, depending on how you look at it. So I was trying to see when, if ever, a supporting actor has won when they're speaking mostly in a foreign language in the film. So
Mhm.
the you could maybe so Kihi Kwan, obviously for Everything Everywhere, that's not an international film by any means, and he speaks a lot of English in that movie, although he also speaks some like Cantonese and Mandarin, I believe, in that movie. Um, and then also you could technically say maybe Troy Kotzer for Coda,
Mhm.
not a foreign language, but speaks entirely, obviously, an American Sign Language. I don't know if that really has the same vibe as Stellan Skarsgård speaking mostly in like
Yeah.
Norwegian.
The thing is though that the Academy's voting body has changed significantly in the past 5 years to be a lot more international, and so that's where we're really seeing a lot of nominations. We're starting to see some wins here and there. I think as more and more these movies get nominated and respected, we're going to see some wins falling in place pretty soon here. But yeah, that's a fair point that we haven't seen like Sandra Hüller or anybody Fernanda Torres actually win for these performances, but they're getting a lot of nominations now, a lot more than they used to.
And like I said, obviously, I'm not knocking it because I have him as one of the three contenders, but he when it comes to those deciding factors, I wonder how that might affect it when he's up against two supporting actors who are American and are speaking entirely in English in their movies. If
Mhm.
that will have any effect at all. Raf, do you have uh, someone different in your front runner spot?
I do, but before I get to that person, a few notes on what you guys said. Not to be an actually guy, Jacob, but Paul Mescal is Irish, not American,
Yeah,
despite him
yeah.
speaking English in his role. Two, if Stellan Skarsgård does end up winning, he would be the second cast member from the Avengers to win a Best Supporting Actor Oscar, which I don't know. That seems like an interesting thing. Mark Ruffalo will probably also win one at some point in his career. So it just seems like we're going to get a lot of Avengers with Oscar statues. So those are the 2 points that I wanted to make on what you guys
Eh.
were saying. My two silly points. The third point, which is not as silly but might seem silly for folks who are maybe a little bit more plugged in to these Oscar races than I am. So I don't have either Paul Mescal or Stellan Skarsgård on my list of five. And for me, the worry is I assume that they will most likely end up being campaigned in supporting actor based on the conversation that we had last week and how many folks will be campaigning in lead. But also based on that conversation from last week, lead might seem like there is some room to find nominations based on, pretty much like 3 or 4 through 7 being very tight and a lot of folks feeling like they're on the bubble. So depending on how much Stellan and Paul are in their respective movies, I could see a world where they both get campaigned in lead, just because we know that Best Supporting Actor is typically a category that is like super, 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 super stacked. And just to like game the system, studios might want to campaign folks in, or those two folks in lead as opposed to supporting. I haven't seen either movie, so I don't know that that actually makes sense based on the performances that those two gents are giving. But
Quick
that's sort of the
note.
thinking that I had for leaving them off of my list. Yeah.
That is good reasoning. It's a quick note that makes sense, I think, from their performances. I thought that if Stellan went lead, then Paul Mescal would go supporting and vice versa for a long time. However, when Marty Supreme came out and had great reviews for Timothy Chalamet, Paul Mescal announced, or like the studio, I guess, announced that Mescal would be campaigning and supporting. And also, I think Sentimental Value has announced that Skarsgård will be in supporting. So they've kind of put the roots down now, the studios wise. But it does make sense from a performance perspective. That was very much a question coming into this race. Um, but so obviously, since you don't have them on your five, we'll have plenty of people to talk
Mhm.
about. I think I know who's at your number one. So if you want to talk about him,
Yeah.
let's let him enter the conversation.
Yes, I'm going to go with the super basic answer for number one. Um, the performance that has been talked about with this movie since like early test screenings, much earlier this year. I'm going with Sean Penn out of One Battle After Another. The more that I think about that performance, um, I realize that it's maybe not my favorite supporting performance of the year, but it seems so primed for an Oscar win, especially if we're thinking about like which performance from that movie will end up seeing someone on stage accepting an Oscar. It's most likely going to be Sean Penn. It's a pretty showy performance. There's a lot of meat. He's chewing on a lot of scenery in that everyone who sees it can like immediately recognize that he is doing something that is like super fun and interesting, but also something that is extremely layered and sinister. Um, it seems unlikely that we will live in any world where that performance does not get nominated and is not among like one of the stronger contenders amongst nominated performances.
Yeah, I think we're definitely locked in with the three performers we've talked about being nominated. I don't think there's any world where these three guys aren't in, unless again the Academy rejects the campaigning of Mescal or Skarsgård and puts them in the other category. So
I mean,
we
they
have,
did accept both Daniel Kaluuya and Lakeith Stanfield as best supporting actors in Judas and the Black Messiah, which is like still the most absurd Oscar campaign I've seen in the last like 10 years. So if those guys could both be nominated for supporting, then Paul and Stellan will most likely, be able to campaign there as well.
yeah, I think they definitely can make that case, and so I think they'll be in this race. Sean Penn obviously is getting rave reviews. This is the movie that we've actually all seen here. We all know that it's a great performance. It's given by one of the great actors who's made a comeback here. He's already got what, two Oscar awards previously that could work against his favor in terms of if voters are thinking there's three worthy performances here and we could give an Oscar to someone who doesn't have it yet. Maybe that plays into their
Mhm.
mind. There's also the fact that Sean Penn is a bit of a controversial guy. I'm
Yeah.
sure some of the PR stuff will come out and make it a little bit more like it could come out to where the industry says, we don't have to give Sean Penn an award. We can nominate him, and then again, it's not like we're scraping the bottom of the barrel. Paul Mescal and Stellan Skarsgård, by all accounts, are very worthy in their roles. So I think you could easily, if you're the Academy, give it to one of those guys, give them a fresh Oscar, and say, we didn't have to give it to Sean Penn. It's fine. What is your take on Sean Penn, Brian?
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think there's going to be some mudslinging towards One Battle After Another as like an early front runner and a movie that isn't is I think people have criticized it, but I don't know that that's reached the wider audience in a way that it will once nominations hit. Once we get into the thick of awards season, I think it's going to get a little bit messy. And Sean Penn is going to be a big part of that. I think also with Benicio being pretty strong in the category, you're going to have a little bit of like, well, do people really respond to which performance do people respond to more, and they might drop the other person down further on their ballots because they feel like they've already recognized the movie. So Um, yeah, I mean, but obviously, the path is the heavier Bardem, No Country for Old Men win, where it's just like this iconic villain who gives a great performance, and so it certainly could happen.
And that's one thing too, that when this movie came out, there was a question about how politics might play into this one because the movie has certain political themes. We didn't really see a lot of that in the initial reactions. We didn't really see a lot of
Mhm.
backlash from any political sides. But in our climate that we live in today, we could see an eruption of politics at this movie at any time, all the way up to from the White House. um,
Mhm.
so
I don't think that's the real risk, though. I think the risk is more from, honestly, the left, and there are people who really don't like the way that this movie portrays Black women. Um, I I think I've read some of that, and it's interesting. I don't know that I agree with it, but certainly from like an academy perspective, like a lot of that is going to come out, and be a little ugly down the stretch here, I think,
yeah, it could.
in a
The
bigger
idea
way.
that the performance in one battle after another most likely to receive full recognition at the Oscars being the Sean Penn character is like to what Bryan is saying, where you could see a lot of pushback from, you know, folks on the left in
Yeah.
terms of like maybe being something that ruins the potential of this campaign for what is pretty easily recognizable as a really good acting performance.
Especially with if you have three performances that are all like very close together, but you like one character more than you like the other character, which no one would like Sean Penn's character, although they enjoy maybe hating him. You may give it to the character that you actually like, which is why too. Also, Stellan Skarsgård, even though he certainly knows Sean Penn, I don't think in his movie. I think there's probably a catharsis of some kind, but Stellan Skarsgård is supposed to be like a difficult father in sentimental value. So depending on how that plays out, I could see, Paul Mescal's Shakespeare being the most likable character of the three. If you're like thinking purely about which character do I like the most to succeed, just kind of separate than the performances. Raph, they're not on your list, but considering that they are in supporting, is it kind of fair to say that we all three kind of agree those are the three that are going to be in the race? So
Yeah, absolutely.
we're going to get down. So go ahead and tell us then, Raph, who's your number two, since you excluded these two kind of juggernauts on there.
Yeah, so my number two is one that I don't know that I love that I'm including, but also do kind of love that I'm including. I'm gonna go with Jeremy Strong in the Springsteen movie, whatever the name actually is. He got nominated last year for the Donald Trump movie in the same category, so we know that the Oscars like him. I personally like love everything around Jeremy Strong and how insane he is. I think it will be really cool to see him get nominated for these kinds of insane roles year after year after year. We know that the Academy loves music biopics. I think Jeremy Allen White would also have to get nominated in order for Jeremy Strong to be nominated. But I can see a world where that happens, and I would hate the Jeremy Allen White nomination a little bit less if it came with a Jeremy Strong nomination in
Ooh.
Best Supporting,
And that's
just because of
interesting
how much of a weirdo he is.
because we just had the best actor conversation and we actually all agree Jeremy Allen White is probably not getting in. And I think if Jeremy Allen White is not getting in, if Springsteen is not getting in for Springsteen, then Springsteen's manager or whatever Jeremy Strong's character is not going to probably get in for Springsteen in my mind. Like I feel like it's one of those scenarios where it's like, are we really going to put him in for for this role and not even Jeremy Allen White? So I think
Yeah.
he's kind of slipped off the table. but I can see it. He was in there for a long time, as obviously he's got the range as an actor to provide interesting performances. So
It would also be great for the narrative of him as like always a bridesmaid, never a bride. Because
Mm.
after like losing last year to Kieran Culkin, who he also lost to like year after year when they were on Succession together, like continuously nominating Jeremy Strong for Best Supporting Actor would be a funny bit for the
Yeah,
Academy to do.
yeah.
Brian, do you have him?
I don't have him in, but I think we'll see him next year for Social Network too.
It's just like we have to keep doing this. This
Yeah,
is incredible.
yeah.
I have Jeremy Strong off my list, as I said. We'll go ahead and see who Brian has at number 4, and then we'll get back to your number 3, Raph. Brian,
All
who do you
right.
have at 4?
At 4, I have someone I hope we all have on our list: Benicio del Toro for One Battle After Another. What a delightful performance! I'm glad that he's been rising in pundits' estimations. I think he's um, pretty pretty likely to get a nomination here.
I really enjoyed Benicio del Toro's performance in One Battle After Another, and I've had him on and off the list. Maybe if I had a few small beers, he could get back on my list. Um,
Nice.
but I'm also a little bit so I really liked One Battle After Another, and it's one of those movies that's hard for me to define and how much I like it. I have to think about it a lot. The movie itself is also kind of going up and down my list a lot. Like day by day, I can think differently of it a little bit. Um, and from an Oscar standpoint, it's such a heavy front runner now that to a degree, it's almost like One Battle is partly my Oscars villain. Not that I don't want it to succeed, but I don't want it to completely dominate and destroy everything else because I do think there's a lot of other good options on the table. So currently, I don't have Benicio del Toro on my list. He's probably number 6, just because there's already 3 strong slots in there, and I don't necessarily want to give another supporting actor slot to Benicio del Toro when I think there's some other performances that I would like to see honored that could get in, but we'll see. Um, Raph, do you have Benicio del Toro? I imagine you do have him on your list.
Yeah, so I teased it last week when I threw in Benicio del Toro as my number 5 in lead for the Phoenician Scheme. He's my number 4 in Best Supporting for One Battle. I want to see him do the ScarJo thing, get nominated in two categories for 2 different movies in the same year. I think it would be super worthwhile. The more that I think about One Battle After Another, the more that his performance stands out to me as the better of the 2 supporting performances in terms of like fully capturing the essence and the philosophy and the spirit of One Battle After Another. I think he encapsulates that more so than Sean Penn. And while his performance isn't as showy as the Sean Penn performance, I do think that it carries a little bit more weight in terms of like what that movie actually is, like spiritually. So it would be really awesome to see him get nominated. Honestly, out of the 5 that I have and out of like the, however many in total we're going to talk about, here today, I want to see him win more than anyone else. I think that would be amazing. A few small beers, Army, we can ride into the night with that, and it would be just good vibes all around.
Yeah.
I do love.
Okay, little soapbox here, but we need to get over being like impressive, being the end all be all of being good, like the best actor, because Benicio del Toro in this movie is so likable and brings so much soul to the movie that, like, in terms of serving the movie itself and making it good, he's doing so much there, where Sean Penn is giving the more like actorly performance and more of the traditional thing that's recognized as great acting. But we just need to get beyond that and think of, what are people doing in service of the movie as well, and what's like, what are we valuing here?
It's the idea that we get trapped into who does the most acting, like
Yeah,
the
yeah,
most performance as opposed to the best performance, right? You see clips of like, these are the best acting performances of all time, and it's just people yelling. Like we don't need
yeah.
the showiness in order for something to be great. To what Bryan is speaking about.
And the Academy feeds into that by doing like clips of the acting performances, and we're going to show, how great they are. So it's, yeah, it's hard to get away from, but I'd really like us to break out of the boxes of what, we recognize as great acting to some
Of course, it
degree.
goes both ways too. Isabella Rossellini got in for a very short and pretty subtle supporting actress performance last year, and people were upset um, that she got recognized for something so seemingly simple. So, as far as Benicio
She
goes,
captured the essence of the movie,
she does
which
right, correct.
yeah,
So,
that's what we're getting at is, performances that capture the soul of a film, no matter how big or showy or small the performance might seem. Being in service of like what the movie is about is what should determine whether or not a performance is getting recognized.
Yeah. I
absolutely,
think we're trying to make great movies here. We're not trying to make great performances. So I respond to actors and actresses that do that,
sure. Yeah. So yeah, Benicio is on the bubble for me, and he is the fourth performance that I would like to see recognized from One Battle After Another. If it gets four performances, I think the three performances I definitely want One Battle to be honored for are uh, Leonardo DiCaprio, Sean Penn, and Tiana Taylor, and Raph's holding up the six. And the idea of One Battle After Another getting six acting nominations makes me want to throw up in my mouth a little bit. Like, can we spread the love a little bit? There are some other good
Make
performances.
better movies.
I think there's
If
enough.
you want to get nominated more, make a
I think
better
there's
movie.
I think there's
Have
some
better
good movies.
performances.
I think there's some good movies to pick from. Chase Infinity does not belong in lead actress. That was a conversation that we didn't. Val and Ramona had not seen One Battle After Another to really comment, but to get into an argument about that. But um, so I'm leaving a little bit of room. But Raph, I promised we'll go to your third pick next. Who do you have at number three?
Yeah, I don't know if either of you gents will have this person, but I'm gonna go with Miles Catton from Sinners. To what we were just speaking about in terms of a performance that fully captures the soul of a movie, it's Miles in Sinners, more so than Michael B. Jordan, more so than Delroy Lindo. I'm forgetting the woman's name who plays oh my god, what's her character's name? I'm totally
Loomis.
forgetting her, but yeah, I mean, she's amazing in everything. She didn't quite make my supporting actress list, but yeah, I think um, this is like an insane debut performance, and he fully steals the movie from a performance perspective away from Michael B. Jordan. And I think that it would be really, really, really awesome to see him get nominated for his performance for as Sammy in Sinners.
Yeah, in many ways, Raph, we had a conversation about spiritual leads of the film versus functional leads, and I definitely think Miles Caton is almost positioned spiritually as the lead of Sinners, although the functional is kind of split between Smokestack and him. Um, but it's interesting. I don't have him on my list right now. He's also near. And my take on his performance was that he was absolutely phenomenal discovery from the musical side. The musical scene is what really blew me away, and his voice and his ability to perform in that sense. He did a terrific job on the acting side, of course, but it just comes down to there's two slots, and so um, and it'll make sense in a second. But Bryan, do you lit up? So do you have Miles Keaton on your list?
I do. He's my number 5. I love this performance. It's voting with my heart because the Academy doesn't like to nominate new performers or people that they haven't seen a whole lot from. But man, I do feel like he gave one of the best supporting performances of the year. So I would love to see him in there.
For me, it was just kind of a chalk up between the two. So I don't have Miles Keaton, but I do have Delroy Lindo, especially for Delroy Lindo's supporting performance in the first half of the film. He has some really great moments in there. Obviously, Delroy Lindo's been around a little bit longer, so I thought maybe the Academy tends toward
Yeah.
him. He's had some performances overlooked. He's had some performances. Um, I can't tell you how many times I've seen that clip of him in that newsroom setting, like on like TikTok or shared around, where it looks like he's from the one I'm talking about from the TV show, right? Hopefully, anyway. Um, so he's just a guy that I think is a tremendous actor, and the Academy maybe could award him. So we're on the same page with the center supporting actor. We just differ in who would get in there. So, Bryan, did that mean that we cleared your 5?
We cleared my 5. That's all 5.
So Paul Mescal, Stellan Skarsgård, not in order. Sean Penn, Miles Keaton, and Benicio del Toro.
Benicio. Yep.
Yeah. And Raph, we are through 4 of your list.
Yeah, I have one more left. I think Delroy would be really cool, just thinking about him as like a body of work kind of nomination. He got, I think a couple years ago, people were talking about him getting nominated for The Five Bloods, which didn't get any nominations, which he was great in. He's like absolutely amazing in Crooklyn. If you guys haven't seen that movie, go watch it. He's brilliant
good.
there.
Yeah.
He's turned in so many brilliant performances that it would be amazing to see him get sort of like the Lifetime Achievement nomination over the, Miles getting like the newcomer nomination.
All right. And who do you have 5th?
Oh, at number 5. Do we go through your 5 as well, Jacob?
No, I have one left, but
or you have one more?
I'll go with your
Okay.
5 first.
I don't think we have the same one. I'm going with the Sandman. The worst snub in recent Oscar memory was Adam Sandler not getting nominated for what was the best performance of 2019 in Uncut Gems. I think he said afterwards that he was just going to go back to making a bunch of dog shit Netflix movies because he didn't get nominated. He was great in Hustle a couple years after that, and it seems like he was, pretty strong by all accounts in Jay Kelly. So I do think that it would be nice for Adam Sandler to get his flowers. Obviously, a beloved figure within Hollywood. I think everyone would enjoy seeing him get nominated, seeing him win. It would be a shame for it to not be for Uncut Gems, but we'll take anything that we can at this point in the Sandman hive.
You're correct in guessing that I don't have him on my list, but he's also not that far. It's more of a function of Jay Kelly falling down the ranks than it is anything else. I haven't seen the movie, obviously, to say. Also, some people don't necessarily think his performance is a standout. Some people say George Clooney is, some people say he is, so it's kind of more split. He's not like the clear, like, give him an Oscar kind of performance based on the reactions to it. So I don't currently have him on my list. Obviously, Bryan doesn't have him on his list. Is he someone you have very close?
Yeah, I think he's in the running. I think once you get past, that 5th slot is definitely up for grabs, I'd say. The 5th slot is up for grabs.
And the 5th slot that I have, who hasn't come up to finish us out, is one that I did not think was going to happen for a while, but it's getting more and more attention, even from people who don't necessarily like him, and that is Jacob Elordi as Frankenstein's monster in Frankenstein. As the movies come out, I've seen more and more people saying, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I think Jacob Elordi is phenomenal. He's like the heart and soul of Frankenstein. Frankenstein's stock in Best Picture is only going up. And so when I look at those last two spots, I'm wondering if Jacob Elordi doesn't slip in because of a growing love for Frankenstein, which would be crazy because Frankenstein is going to have a whole lot of nominations for a movie that's in the back end of Best Picture, but it's just such a technical stunner. If Jacob Elordi can slip in, it just strengthens the movie that much more. I have not seen Frankenstein yet. I'm excited to. I'm just trying to make sure I can see it on a bigger screen than my phone or laptop because it's too beautiful technically to just to watch it at such a low rate. What about you guys? Did y'all have Jacob Elordi near your five?
Yeah, I took him out last minute because I wanted to make it more interesting than just the chalk picks. But I think, yeah, everything you said, stock is certainly rising, and he's probably, in terms of current likelihood, pretty strong.
I left him out of my five for similar reasons that I left out Stellan and Paul, because I'm on a first name basis with all these guys, by the way. That's what happens when you're in the industry. Um, I have heard some rumblings that his performance could be considered lead, but Jacob, to what you were saying, where it seems like Chalamet might be so much of a lock that people are scared of campaigning in lead. I also haven't seen this movie as of this recording to really have thoughts about whether I personally see that performance as more of a lead performance or supporting performance. So I kind of want to see it first before I, fully reconfigure and finalize my list. But he's, certainly a bubble pick for me as well.
And it's really hard again, is as depending on if he's in supporting. It really is with those three juggernauts in the front. Those last two spots become very difficult to parse out between, and especially if you think as we get closer to prediction time, it'll be hard to keep Benicio del Toro out. It seems like he's got a lot of momentum to get in that five, which means that everybody's really fighting over one spot, which is really tough. So for now, I
Mm-hmm.
don't have him in, but Benicio del Toro probably will be in before the nomination week comes, unless something changes. So it's going to be tough. So we'll see how that works out. Um, People that we didn't get to speak about. Let's see if there's anybody else that we need to say in supporting actor.
The guy from Severance in the final reckoning for his one scene on the submarine. If we're just going best scene stealers, he's got to be in consideration, right?
You know, for Saw awards, for Sawies, we have different abilities to recognize people. Um, it really is. We're kind of at the end of the list for supporting actor. There's Akira Emoto in Rental Family, but Rental Family has dropped stock so badly that I don't think that that's even an option. He's not a well known enough name. So um, Jude Law from Wizard of the Kremlin Wrath. I know you've seen that. That's so far off. I don't even know if it gets released this year for competition, much less um, recognized. So that's so far gone. Yeah, that pretty much wraps up the supporting actor list. Now, from a Sully
Well,
standpoint, who you have, Raph?
sorry, we've also got the four characters from Mountainhead, the Jesse Strong or whatever his name is, HBO movie about like Silicon Valley bros. Got all those guys. Jacob, I think you were saying um, you had five of the seven dwarves in your best supporting actor race. All looking pretty strong. That
Yes,
would be Oscar history for
yeah.
sure. So
Sleepy is the
who's to
only
say?
one. Sleepy is the only one not in contention because of his role. Obviously, he's mostly asleep. So other than that, but honestly, from just a shout out to some performances from the Saw Awards, ScreenAge Wasteland Awards side of things, real quick, which we're not really here to talk about, but I think Austin Abrams in Weapons could definitely be a guy that gets a little bit of love potentially. Really stands out in that movie. David Johnson in The Long Walk is continuing to turn in performances that could get recognized. We also have Guy Pearce from The Brutalist is technically available. Obviously, Oscar nominated last year. Could show up in our list. I don't think that will happen, but he's technically
Also,
there.
one more for Saw Awards. Ray Fiennes in 28 Years Later could be something that Saw
Ooh.
contributors are digging.
Interesting.
That could be. I could see even more. Honestly, Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor. I could see some Saw contributors getting on that. I would like to see, depending on if you consider. I was telling Raph, I don't think you were here when I said I saw Eternity, and uh, I think Callum Turner, I think is his name, that portrays the first husband, is very good in a supporting role. Probably not really worthy of the conversation. Miles Teller, depending on if you consider him the supporting or the lead, um, is actually really great. I really enjoyed Miles Teller's performance. Raph Raph's knocking it before he tries it.
Not a
But
Miles
anyway,
Teller fan.
don't have to be a fan of Miles Teller, but I think he does do a good job in the movie. Anyway, that wraps up supporting actor. Thanks again, guys, for joining me. Hopefully, we'll have some combination of you guys on soon in the future. We've wrapped up the acting slots, so next we need to tackle director, which is going to be a really fun discussion. I think you guys would be the most fun to have that conversation with, and then we also need to do the screenplay categories. So we will get to scheduling that, and we will see the rest of you on the flip side.